guys, in this video we are going to be discussing endothermic and exothermic reactions, and this video specifically will just focus on an introduction to what exactly these reactions are. So let's do a recap of what enthalpy is. This has already been taught in O-levels, so I'm just going to go over it a little bit more. So enthalpy basically refers to the heat content of a substance, and enthalpy itself cannot be measured. However, you can measure the changes in enthalpy, and these two changes are going to be exothermic and endothermic, and we're going to compare these right now. So in an exothermic reaction, energy is going to be released to the surroundings. In an endothermic reaction, energy will be taken in from the surroundings. And the mnemonic for this is going to be Ben Mex, which basically means that bond breaking is endothermic and bond making is exothermic. For example, over here. Now in exothermic reactions, the energy that's needed to make the bonds is always going to be more than the energy that's needed to break them. Similarly, in endothermic reactions, the energy that's needed for bond breaking is always going to be more than the energy that's needed for bond making. Now over here, let's take a look at this diagram. So this rectangle refers to the system, which is basically going to be the reactants that you have over there and the products and all of that. And whatever's outside represents the surroundings, which is going to be the thermometer, the air outside, and everything, the test tube, all of that. So anything that's not in the reaction mixture content. Now, if you have an exothermic reaction, your initial temperature, let's say, is going to be 25 degrees Celsius, which is approximately room temperature. And after the reaction is complete, it's going to increase, which is going to be 35 degrees Celsius. Now, that's because energy is being given out to the surroundings. And the energy that's been given out is going to be measured by this thermometer. So your thermometer is going to represent the surroundings. And that increase in temperature is going to tell you that this reaction is exothermic because energy has been released. If you take a look at the flip side of this, in an endothermic reaction, energy is going to be taken in from the surroundings by the system. So overall, the surrounding, which in this case is your thermometer, since the energy will be taken in from the thermometer, the final temperature will be less. The next thing that we're going to be talking about is energy profile diagrams. Now these have been covered in O-levels, but I'm just going to be going over them again. So first, let's take a look at exothermic reactions. Now for an exothermic reaction, it's pretty clear that the products are always going to be at a lower energy level than the reactants. So in this case, your enthalpy change is going to be negative. So whenever you draw the arrow for enthalpy change, it always goes from the reactants to the products. And this is going to be pointing downwards because your delta H will be negative. And that's because the products are at a lower energy level. Now you are also going to mark your activation energy, which is basically the energy that's needed to start any reaction, right? So the arrow for this is always going to point upwards. So the arrow for activation energy goes from the reactants to the top, and the arrow for enthalpy change goes from the reactants to the products. So both the arrows need to start at the level of the reactants. Now almost all the reactions that take place are exothermic, very few of them are going to be endothermic. And the products are more stable than the reactants. Why? Because generally, if you have any substance that's at a higher energy level, it's going to be more unstable than a substance that's at a lower energy level. So because of that, the more exothermic a reaction, the more stable the product. Now let's talk about endothermic reactions. Now for this, the products are going to be at a higher energy level than the reactants. So your activation energy is going to go over here from the products to the pump over here, and your enthalpy change will go from the reactants to the products over here. So in this case, it's going to be pointing upwards because your delta H is going to be positive since the products are at a higher energy level. Now this is going to be the exact opposite of exothermic reactions. So the more endothermic a reaction, the less stable the product. Why? Because if your reaction becomes more endothermic, the product is going to be at a higher energy level. And because it's going to be at a higher energy level, it's going to possess more energy and it's going to be more unstable. For example, if you have reaction A, in which the delta H is 17 kilojoules per mole, and reaction B, in which delta H is 30 kilojoules per mole, reaction A is going to be more likely to occur because this reaction is more endothermic. So whenever a reaction takes place, it's always better if your product is as stable as it can be. So because of that, almost all reactions are exothermic, because in exothermic reactions you have stable products being produced. And if you want to calculate delta H, this is going to be the formula. So you're always going to do reactants minus products if you want to calculate delta H. The last thing that we're going to be focusing on for this video is how exactly we calculate the enthalpy change of a reaction in labs. So we're going to be discussing an experiment that we can carry out to determine this. The first thing that we're going to do is that you're going to take a burette and then you're going to use it to add 50 centimeter cube of water to a conical flask. So the burette is going to be used to add 50 centimeter cube of water to the conical flask. After that, you are going to use a thermometer and you're going to record the initial temperature of that water. So after you've poured in the water, you're going to record the initial temperature. After this, you're going to take 4 grams of NaOH or sodium hydroxide and you're going to weigh this completely using the digital balance just to make sure that it's exactly 4 grams. It's not less and it's not more, because in experiments, the measurements that you take need to be as accurate as possible. And then you're going to add this to the water that's there in the conical flask. Now you're going to keep on stirring this until the NaOH is going to dissolve and until your thermometer shows a maximum reading or a minimum reading. Now whether it's maximum or minimum depends on the type of reaction that's taking place. Now if your reaction is going to be an exothermic reaction, then energy will be released to the surroundings, so your temperature is going to be maximum. If it's an endothermic reaction, your temperature is going to decrease because energy will be taken in from the surroundings, so it's going to be minimum. So again, whatever the reading is going to be, it's just going to be either maximum or minimum, and you need to note this down. So you have your initial temperature and final temperature. Now after this, you're going to make a list of all the measurements that you've taken, and this is just going to make things easier for you. So the volume of the water was 50 centimeter cube. The mass of the sodium hydroxide was 4 grams. The initial temperature was 25 degrees Celsius and the final temperature was 37 degrees Celsius. Again, these are just hypothetical values. If you actually carry out the experiment, it might be different. And the change in temperature that you have is going to be 12 degrees Celsius. Now the formula for calculating the enthalpy change in your labs is going to be MC delta T. Now Q in this case represents the energy change. M represents the mass of the liquid that you have the thing dissolved in, right? Because the temperature change that's taking place, the temperature change that you're recording, it's the temperature of the water that's changing, right? Of the liquid that your substance is in. So you're going to look at the mass of the liquid. Then after that, you have your change in temperature and you have C. Now C refers to specific heat capacity, which is basically the energy needed to change the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 Kelvin. So this is a constant and it's going to be 4.18, and this has also been given in your data booklet. So it's better if you memorize it, but if you don't, it's not going to be that much of an issue. Now in this case, you have the volume of water and over here you need the mass. Now the density of water is going to be 1 gram per centimeter cube. Now in this case, the volume of water is 50 centimeter cube. And the formula for mass is going to be density times volume. So if you multiply the density of water by the volume, you're supposed to get the mass. So in this case, the mass of the water is going to be the same as the volume. So you can take it as 50. And then you can multiply this to get the energy. Now this is the energy change that's going to take place if you dissolve 4 grams of NaOH. However, we want the overall enthalpy change calculation in terms of kilojoules per mole. This is only the energy that's needed for 4 grams. So 4 grams is going to be 0.1 moles if you use the formula moles is equals to mass upon mR. So if you have 0.1 moles of NaOH, the energy change that's going to take place is going to be 2508. And you need the energy for 1 mole. So that's going to be 25.1 or 25.08 kilojoules per mole.